You're sitting at home, staring at your phone. Your partner hasn't spoken to you in 3 days. 3 days. And the worst part? You don't even know exactly what you did wrong. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if you said something offensive, if you were too demanding, too needy, too much. The silence is deafening. It's suffocating. And you're beginning to think that maybe, just maybe, you're the problem. What you're experiencing isn't just someone needing space. It's not a healthy cooling off period. What you're experiencing is a calculated weapon, wielded by someone who knows exactly how to hurt you without leaving a mark. The silent treatment, when used deliberately, is one of the most insidious forms of emotional abuse. It's silent, it's invisible, and it works with devastating effectiveness. If you've ever felt this way, trapped in a cycle of confusion and anxiety, desperate to fix something you can't quite grasp, then you're in the right place. Today, we're diving deep into the psychology behind the silent treatment, how manipulators weaponize it, and most importantly, how you can break free from it. And if you find this information helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe to stay updated as we explore the darker dynamics of human relationships. Let's get started. Section 1. Understanding the silent treatment. Before we talk about how manipulators use silence, we need to understand what it actually is. And here's the key distinction that most people miss. Silence in itself isn't inherently abusive. When you and your partner have a heated argument and one of you says, "I need an hour to cool down," that's healthy. That's communication. That's you both agreeing on a temporary break before discussing things rationally. But the silent treatment is fundamentally different. It's the deliberate withdrawal of communication, not to cool down, but to punish. It's prolonged, it's unpredictable, and critically, there's no agreed upon time when the conversation will resume. The victim doesn't know if the silence will last hours, days, or weeks. This uncertainty is the psychological mechanism that makes it so effective as a control tool. When a manipulator deploys the silent treatment, they're creating a communication void. In that void, they hold all the power. They decide when to break the silence. They decide if and when the relationship will return to normal. The victim becomes essentially powerless, waiting in limbo, desperate to restore the connection. Think of it this way. In a healthy relationship, both partners have a say in how conflicts are resolved. But in a dynamic where the silent treatment is used, one person has unilaterally removed themselves from the conversation. They're not just taking time to think. They're sending a message. I'm punishing you, and you'll do whatever it takes to win back my favor. This might sound dramatic, but it's not. The silent treatment is a sophisticated form of control disguised as emotional distance. And once you understand the mechanics behind it, you'll start recognizing it everywhere. Not just in romantic relationships, but in friendships, families, and workplaces. Section 2. The Manipulator's Playbook. So how exactly do manipulators weaponize silence? Let's break down the specific tactics they use. First, punishment and behavioral correction. A manipulator uses the silent treatment as a punishment tool. You said something they didn't like. You did something they deemed inappropriate. So they shut you out. And here's the psychological mechanism at play. Your brain is wired for connection. Being ignored triggers a primal threat response. You've been cast out of the tribe, and evolutionarily, that meant death. So what do? You scramble to figure out what you did wrong. You apologize, even if you're not entirely sure what you're apologizing for. You promise to change. You become hyper-focused on appeasing the manipulator, on getting back into their good graces. And when they finally break their silence, you feel such relief that you're willing to modify your behavior to avoid experiencing that pain again. The manipulator has effectively trained you. You're now conditioned to suppress your own needs and desires to maintain the relationship. And they didn't have to use force, threats, or raised voices. They just had to withhold approval. Second, power dynamics and control. At its core, the silent treatment is about establishing dominance. By refusing to communicate, the manipulator is saying, I have the power in this relationship. I decide the terms of our interaction. The victim is left in a subordinate position, constantly trying to figure out how to please the person controlling their emotional access. This creates a profound power imbalance. The victim becomes hyper-aware of the manipulator's moods and needs. They start walking on eggshells, monitoring their own behavior obsessively to avoid triggering another period of silence. Over time, they abandon their own needs, opinions, and identity in service of maintaining peace with the manipulator. Third, evading accountability. Here's something insidious that happens when someone uses the silent treatment. It's the perfect escape hatch for accountability. Imagine your partner does something genuinely harmful or disrespectful. You confront them about it. Instead of having a real conversation, they shut down and stop talking to you. Now, what happens? You stop focusing on their bad behavior. Instead, you're focused on their silence. You're trying to figure out how to get them to talk to you again. You're apologizing for bringing up their behavior in the first place. The manipulator has effectively deflected from the issue and made you feel guilty for even asking them to address their actions. It's a masterful reversal of accountability. Rather than examining their own behavior, they've made you feel responsible for their emotional withdrawal. Fourth, creating doubt and gaslighting. The unpredictability of the silent treatment has a devastating psychological effect. You don't know what triggered it. You don't know when it will end. You don't know if your interpretation of events is correct. Did I really say something wrong? Am I being too sensitive? Is my anger justified? Maybe I'm the difficult one in this relationship. This constant state of confusion erodes your trust in your own perception. You start questioning your reality. You start to wonder if perhaps you're the problem. And that's when gaslighting takes root, not through explicit contradiction, but through systematic doubt. The silent treatment creates the perfect environment for you to gaslight yourself. Fifth, attention seeking through provocation. Some manipulators use the silent treatment specifically to provoke a reaction. They want to see you panic. They want you to call them repeatedly, send desperate texts, beg them to talk to you. Why? Because it feeds their need for control and attention. When you finally relent and come crawling back, it confirms their superiority. They've proven they have power over you. And here's the reinforcement cycle. When you do eventually reach out and they respond, you feel such overwhelming relief and gratitude that you don't even address the original issue. You're just grateful to have them back. So the manipulator learns that the silent treatment works. It gets you to pursue them. It validates their control, and it completely derails the original conflict. Section 3. The hidden wounds. Now let's talk about what this actually does to you on a psychological and physiological level. Because here's what most people don't realize. The silent treatment leaves no visible bruises, but it can cause severe and lasting damage. The anxiety trap. When you're in a relationship where the silent treatment happens unpredictably, your nervous system shifts into a state of constant hypervigilance. You're always scanning for signs. Is the manipulator upset? Are they about to withdraw? What can I do to prevent the silence? This isn't just uncomfortable. It's exhausting. You develop what's sometimes called eggshell anxiety. You feel like you're walking on eggshells constantly, terrified of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, being the wrong thing. Your cortisol levels remain elevated. Your body is in a chronic state of stress, and stress, over time, breaks down your physical and mental health. Destruction of self-worth. Being ignored sends a powerful message. You don't matter. You're not worth communicating with. Your feelings, your needs, your existence is unimportant. Over time, this message sinks in. Your self-esteem erodes. You start to believe that you are, in fact, unworthy of love and attention. This is particularly devastating because it's not something done to you violently or obviously. There's no moment where you can point and say, this is abuse. It's subtle. It's quiet. But the damage to your sense of self is profound. The isolation effect. Manipulators who use the silent treatment often work to isolate their victims from outside support. Maybe they criticize your friends. Maybe they make you feel guilty for wanting time with family. By the time the silent treatment reaches its peak, many victims have already distanced themselves from their support networks. They're alone. And when you're alone, you're more dependent on the manipulator for validation and connection. Physical pain from emotional rejection. Here's something that might surprise you. Research in neuroscience has shown that social exclusion and being ignored activate the same neural pathways as physical pain. When someone gives you the silent treatment, your brain registers it as genuine pain. This isn't psychological, it's biological. The distress you feel is real, measurable, and rooted in brain chemistry. So when someone dismisses your pain by saying, "It's not that bad," or "You're overreacting," they're ignoring the scientific reality that you're experiencing genuine suffering. Confusion and persistent self-doubt. Perhaps the most insidious effect is the chronic confusion. You don't know what you did wrong. You don't know when things will get better. You don't know how to fix it. This ambiguity keeps you in a perpetual state of uncertainty. You can't plan. You can't relax. You can't move forward. You're stuck, frozen, waiting for the silence to break. And that constant uncertainty damages your ability to trust yourself. If you can't understand what's happening, how can you trust your own judgment about anything else? Section 4. Breaking free. If you're experiencing the silent treatment, or if you suspect you're in a relationship dynamic where this is happening, here are concrete steps you can take. Establish and maintain firm boundaries. First, you need to recognize that the silent treatment is a choice the other person is making. It's not your responsibility to fix it. So set a clear boundary. You might say something like, "I understand you're upset, and I respect that you need space. However, I'm not willing to engage in undefined silence. If you need time to calm down, I'm happy to give you until specific time. After that, we need to have a conversation about what happened." This does two things. First, it establishes that you have agency in the relationship. Second, it removes the uncertainty. You're no longer in limbo, waiting for someone to decide when they feel like talking to you again. Now, the manipulator might push back. They might say, "You're being controlling or demanding." That's precisely the point. You're reasserting your right to be treated with basic respect. And if they refuse to respect that boundary, you have important information about the nature of the relationship. Prioritize your own well-being. The second crucial step is to shift your focus from trying to win back the manipulator's approval to maintaining your own mental health. Engage in activities that build your self-esteem. Spend time with people who respect you. Exercise, pursue hobbies, invest in friendships. These aren't distractions. They're protective factors. When you're investing in your own well-being, two things happen. First, you become less dependent on the manipulator for validation. Second, you start to rebuild the self-confidence that's been eroded. You start to remember who you are outside of this relationship. Seek professional support. There's no shame in talking to a therapist about this. A trained professional can help you understand the dynamics at play. They can help you recognize patterns you might not see clearly from inside the situation. They can also help you develop specific strategies for either improving the relationship, if that's what you want, or leaving it safely. If the silent treatment is part of a broader pattern of emotional abuse, a therapist can help you see the full picture. Sometimes we're so close to a situation that we can't see how unhealthy it really is. Make the hard decision. Finally, and I say this with compassion, sometimes the healthiest response to chronic emotional abuse is to leave the relationship. That doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you're not strong enough. It means you've recognized that you deserve better. You deserve a relationship where disagreements are resolved through communication, where both partners' needs matter, where silence is not used as a weapon. This isn't easy. Leaving an emotionally abusive relationship is difficult, complicated, and often fraught with doubt. But staying in a dynamic where you're systematically being hurt is worse. Your mental health, your sense of self, your future happiness, these things matter. Closing. The silent treatment is a tool of control. wrapped in the guise of emotional space. It's sophisticated, effective, and deeply harmful. But here's what I want you to understand. Recognizing it is the first step toward reclaiming your power. If you've seen yourself in this video, if you felt that crushing silence, that desperate need to fix something you don't understand, that erosion of your own sense of self-worth, I want you to know that what you're experiencing is real. It's not your fault, and you can get out of it. You deserve a relationship where conflict is resolved through communication. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to matter. And no amount of silence should ever convince you otherwise. If this video resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear this message. And if you're struggling with these dynamics, please reach out to someone you trust or consider speaking with a mental health professional. You don't have to navigate this alone. Thank you for watching. Your well-being matters.